I would say in my experience, men cheat more, but women cheat better. But men and women approach cheating differently in my experience, and they react to cheating differently in my experience. When a man finds out that his wife cheated, his first question is, did you fuck him? When a woman finds out her husband cheated, the first question is usually, do you love her? I'm James Sexton. I'm a divorce lawyer in New York City, and I'm here to answer questions from the Honesty Box. What is cited as the most common reason for divorce? Well, the short answer is no longer wanting to be married to that person. But I think what people are usually asking when they say what's the most common reason for divorce is what are the most common precipitating factors for a divorce? And you know what the answer most people want is for me to give them some big thing. So here are the big things. And you're not gonna be surprised by any of these. Adultery, infidelity, right? Financial impropriety and dishonesty about what's going on with the finances. Fights about money. Those are all examples of the big things that are the reasons for divorce. But I think that's an overly simplistic way of looking at things, because most of the things that I just said are sort of symptoms of the disease. They're not the disease itself. So what I often say to people is that the only cause of divorce, as far as I can see, is disconnection. Disconnection from your partner. And people disconnect from their spouse or their partner the same way they go bankrupt. Very, very slowly, and then all at once. So the cheating, the financial impropriety, that's the all at once. That's the straw that breaks the camel's back. But there's this series of small disconnections that leads to that. And I think that's actually the underlying cause of divorce, is all of those disconnections. What is a prenup? Prenup is shorthand for a prenuptial agreement. And what that is nuptial means married, pre means before. So it's a before marriage agreement. It's a written contract between two people that essentially governs the rules, particularly of their finances in the marriage. What I tell people is everyone who's married has a prenup. It's either one that was written by the government, or it's one that was written by you and the person that you allegedly like more than the 8 billion other options in the world. So I really do think that's the best way to look at prenups. Prenups are essentially, as far as I see it, a way for a couple to keep control over the rule set that's going to govern their marriage in the unfortunate but unfortunately likely event that their marriage will end. Because marriage is a little like the lottery. You're probably not going to win. In the United States, the divorce rate is 56%. So it is more likely than not that people will divorce. So in that situation, why wouldn't you want to create the rule set while the two of you are getting along and make rules that both of you are comfortable with?
Do you think that sometimes the suggestion of a prenup can ruin a relationship?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to have a conversation about prenups. I have a lot of people who call me and say, look, I would like a prenup. There are things I want to protect. Maybe they've been through a bad divorce, or they have particular assets that they got from family or from work that they want to protect in the event of a divorce. And it's hard. It's hard because the way someone hears you bring up the topic of a prenup is, I don't have faith in this relationship. And you know, I think that's the wrong way to frame it. Like when I get in a car and I put on a seatbelt, it's not that I don't have confidence in the person who's driving the car. I know there are factors beyond that driver's control that could impact the necessity of me having that seatbelt. And I really hope I'm not going to need the seatbelt or the airbag, but I like to know that I have it in case there's an issue with it. How often is divorce because of cheating? I mean, cheating is present in a lot of divorces. And the question is, it's a chicken or the egg thing, right? Like, are we divorcing because we're cheating, or are we cheating because we're ill-suited for each other and likely to divorce? And that's a hard thing to figure out. And I don't know that we'll ever be able to answer that question. Because here's the thing. The truth is at the bottom of a bottomless pit. We're never really going to get there. And so when someone says, you know, we're getting divorced because he's sleeping with his secretary, well, then he'll usually say, well, I'm sleeping with my secretary because she hadn't slept with me in 4 years. Well, I hadn't slept with you in 4 years because you're never nice to me. Well, I'm not nice to you because you never have a kind word for me. Well, I don't have a kind word for you because you're never around. Okay, now where are we, gang? We're off to the races. So when they split up, is it because of cheating? If only there were just these perfectly happy people and then this nefarious dark cloud of the other man or the other woman wandered in and suddenly strayed them away. That's not how it works. However, Does cheating play into this stuff? Absolutely. We have a human desire and need to connect with another person. So very often, is that for some people, when they make that connection during a marriage with someone else, is that the wake-up call that makes them go, oh my God, I didn't realize how far I'd come from the way that I felt about this person in the past? Yeah, that happens all the time. Sometimes it's that people need a soft place to land. They don't feel strong enough to leave their marriage until they have someone else who's going to be there to support them. Is that healthy? I don't think so, but it happens all the time. When you ask the question, how often is divorce because of cheating? What you're essentially saying is, how big of a problem is cheating? And here's what I'll tell you. I'm not a religious guy, but if you look at the Bible, and you believe that God gave us 10 commandments, that he just showed up and was like, here's the 10 rules. Don't sleep with people you're not married to. Got 2, right? Thou shalt not kill, only 1. Don't bear false witness against your neighbor, only 1. Honor the Sabbath, only 1. Don't commit adultery. Don't covet your neighbor's spouse. It got 2. It's like God was saying, listen, don't cheat. I mean, seriously, don't cheat. And he only had 10, and he picked 2 of those he threw in. So this has been a problem for a really long time. And is it the cause of divorce? Is it a symptom of divorce? I don't know. We can debate about that all day. But how many divorces is cheating a part of? I would say a good 75, 80%. How much does divorce really cost? Love is grand and divorce is 100 grand. That's the old saying. The 2 most reasonable questions anybody asks me the first time they come to my office is, how long is this going to take and how much is it going to cost? And I tell them all the same thing. Those are the 2 questions that no honest lawyer can answer for you at the start of a divorce, because a divorce is like a table. It's got 4 legs. There's you, your lawyer, your spouse, their lawyer. If one of those legs is off, it does not matter how nice and straight the other legs are, that table's gonna fall down. So all you need is one unreasonable person for a divorce to get ugly. Now, how much can a divorce cost? It largely depends on the kinds of issues that are presented. So, how many conversations can you have about a bank account that's worth $5,000, right? It's only gonna be worth $2,500 worth of lawyer fees to argue over a $5,000 bank account. Otherwise, you're gonna lose before you even win or lose because you've spent more in counsel fees than it was worth. Arguing about things related to your kids, it's very hard for anybody to quantify what's a good deal or a bad deal for that. I mean, I tell my clients all the time, if you want to spend $50,000 arguing over whether Christmas Eve dinner will be held with one parent and then the children will be returned that morning, or whether it'll be starting Christmas morning, who am I to say that's not worth $50,000 worth of argument? Personally, I'd open presents the next day. It wouldn't be worth that much to me, but I don't have $200 million like some of my clients do. If you have $200 million, you might want to spend 50 grand arguing about when your kids get to open their Christmas presents. Wow. Is alimony fair? I've argued yes and I've argued no depending on who's paying me in that moment. So alimony is a name that's used for a bunch of different things. So alimony is also called spousal support or spousal maintenance. And what it essentially is a payment made from one spouse to the other after the divorce. And it has a couple of intentions. One of them is to help rehabilitate the less moneyed person's earning capacity. So very often people make changes during a marriage based on the fact that they're planning on staying married and they're in economic partnership, where they say, you know what? You focus on your career and I'm gonna focus on the house, or I'm gonna focus on the kids, or I'm gonna focus on helping support you in your career. Well, when that marriage ends and this sort of one person that they were as a couple splits back into 2 separate autonomous beings again, courts very often say, hey, wait a minute, we have to make some payment to this person to help them get back on their feet and rehabilitate their earning capacity. I don't think anybody would ever say that's not fair. Of course that's fair. If someone has made economic decisions during a marriage that it's going to make it very difficult for them to support themselves after the marriage, I don't think it's unfair to say there needs to be some rehabilitative assistance given to them while they get on their feet. Should it be so much that it cripples the other person's ability to live their life? No. But people should both be able to walk out of a marriage with dignity, not one person walk out of it with everything and the other person crawl out of it with barely anything. So in that sense, it's certainly fair. There's also a concept in the law called diminished lifetime earning capacity. And that's one of the reasons why alimony, I think, is fair. And that is, when people have children, for example, they're often in their 30s or their 40s. So if you're out of the workforce for your 30s or your 40s or both, even when you rejoin the workforce, you are way behind in that race. Like, you've started the race after everybody's been running for an hour already. So you're never gonna catch up. So alimony can be very fair. Now, is there an argument to be made that alimony is not fair? Sure there is. It has a lot to do with the particular facts of the case. And you may not be surprised to know that when people tell the story of their own life, they're almost always the hero of the story. They're very rarely the villain. So when people tell stories about the finances of a marriage, they often tell it in a very self-serving way. And that's what I, as a trial lawyer, get to do. It's like full contact storytelling. I get to go into court and try to explain to a judge either that this individual's lifetime earning capacity has been diminished and they have every right and reason for the court to give them some supportive alimony so that they can rehabilitate their earning stream, or I go in and say, Your Honor, this person has lived a lavish lifestyle through no fault of my client. They have dissipated marital assets for many, many years. They've done almost nothing to help my client earn the things that they have. They're going to receive assets in equitable distribution, and there is absolutely no reason that my client should have to continue to pay for this person and subsidize their lifestyle so that they can buy more Birkin bags. Both of those arguments can be fair. They can be unfair. What's great about my job is I get paid to make the argument, win or lose. How much do you earn? Do you want to pull out bank statements? Divorce lawyers make a lot of money if you do it well. I won't say what I make, but I will say that I could quit working now and I would be fine. I don't ever have to work for the rest of my life. And I'm only 52. So, divorce lawyers do well. It's unfortunately very expensive to get divorced. And if you're good as a divorce lawyer and you work hard, you can do the math. I make $850 an hour and I work about 12 hours a day. And I probably work sometimes 6-7 days a week. And then I also have attorneys who work for me. And those attorneys bill at $500, $600, $700 an hour. And I pay them the equivalent of $200 or $300 an hour. So you do the math. How would you define a happy marriage? That's a great question. I think a happy marriage is one where people are together not because they're afraid to get divorced, but because they feel like they bring value to each other's lives. My mother used to say that it's really hard to define intelligence, but she could spot stupid a mile away. And I think it's really, really obvious what an unhappy marriage is. So maybe what a happy marriage is a marriage that has the absence of all of the obvious things that make a marriage unhappy. So when I watch someone taking the piss out of their spouse when they're talking about them or in front of friends, that tells me that's not a sign of a happy marriage. So maybe it's someone who builds up their partner when they're with them or when they're with other people. I think it's largely about paying attention, noticing the small things and keeping the small things that make us feeling connected, staying present in your relationship. I think we fall in love really, really fast. There's something so chemical about the way we just meet someone and we're just intoxicated by the way we feel about them. And then we fall out of love much more slowly. I think we just slowly disconnect and we slowly stop doing the things we used to do that made this person feel seen and valued and loved and rooted for. So I think defining a happy marriage for me would be a marriage where the two people still genuinely like each other, where they still seem like if they got to pick who they were gonna hang out with, they'd hang out with each other. And also, I think a marriage where a person sees your faults and sees all your challenges and your blind spots and loves you anyway. Do you believe in soulmates? I believe that whoever created the concept of soulmates should be taken into the town square and beaten to death. Or you should tell me who they are so I can send them a check for a couple of $100,000, because they have done more to facilitate the demise of happy marriages than I could ever aspire to doing. The concept of a soulmate to me is absolutely bizarre. To suggest that out of 8 billion other people in the world, that there's just this one person, and they happen, by the way, to live within like the same town as you, or they went to the same university as you. What were the odds of that? And that's the only person you could ever have a happy, fulfilling relationship with. That's insane, folks. It's insane. And by the way, it's toxic. Because here's the thing. When you get married, society essentially tells you, hey, this person, they're supposed to be your best friend, best lover, best roommate, best travel companion, best co-parent. That's a hell of a resume, guys. Like, it'd be shocking to find someone who fits all 3 of those things. So what happens when you have this concept of a soulmate? And my partner, they're the best co-parent, they're the best roommate, they're the best travel companion, but they're not the best lover I ever had. Well, they mustn't be your soulmate then. That means that there's somebody out there in the 8 billion people that they would be the perfect one. And that's what's the horizon that just forever recedes and keeps people constantly craving the next thing that might check all of the boxes. It's dangerous. Look, we break in relationship, we heal in relationship. You're marrying a human being. They're just as flawed as you. They have great moments, they have awful moments, they have heroic moments, they have villainous moments. This idea that somebody out there is going to be this perfect angelic presence in your life, it is a fiction, and it is the siren song that's going to send you right into the rocks of my office. Does being a child of divorce fuck you up? That's a question a lot of people ask, and it's a fear a lot of people have. I'm not a mental health professional, but I've spent a lot of time reading the mental health literature on this because I deal with a lot of people that go through this. I'm also a divorced father myself. My kids were 5 and 7 when their mother and I split up. Now they're 27 and 25, and I'm happy to report they're very well-adjusted, successful adults who love their mom and love their dad. But here's the difference. Their mom and dad had a very good co-parenting relationship. We got along really well. My ex-wife, there's a lot of people I love that I wouldn't want to be married to, and she's one of them. And she would say the same thing about me. And she's been happily remarried for 15 years to a wonderful guy who's absolutely nothing like me, has a totally different personality. So my kids grew up knowing they had a mom and a dad who really loved them and who were there for them and who were working as a team to take care of them. So I tell you that only to say that I don't think being a child of divorce necessarily fucks you up. Being a child who's exposed to parental conflict for extended periods of time definitely fucks you up. And it fucks you up for a long, long, long time, even when you work on it, even when you try to figure out ways to heal that. Parental conflict and divorce are positively correlated, right? So people who get in lots and lots of fights and people who are constantly in conflict with each other, who have children together, they're often going to get divorced. So ultimately, the question we have to ask ourselves is, how can I minimize how much my divorce fucks my kids up? And that's a question really worth asking. And the answer is to separate your relationship as this person's spouse with your relationship as being their co-parent, right? So change that job role. This person's no longer my spouse, but they're my co-parent. I'm gonna have to deal with them for the rest of my life. A divorce is at best a knife fight in a closet, and your kids are in the closet, and the lights are off. So if you wanna just start stabbing, go right ahead. But you're gonna hurt yourself, you're gonna hurt your kids, you're gonna hurt everybody in that closet, and you might not even hurt the person you were trying to hurt, which is your co-parent. And by the way, you might not want to hurt your co-parent. You might want to hurt your soon-to-be ex-husband, but do you want to hurt the father of your kids? Do you want to hurt the mother of your kids? Your kids love that person. So one of the things I have to do as a lawyer is protect people from themselves and remind them that they are stuck with this person as their co-parent for the rest of their life. And that if they love their children, if their love for their children is greater than their hatred of this person, that their life will be better long-term. And I can say, thankfully, most people love their children way more than they hate their ex. So the answer of, does being a child of divorce fuck you up? Yeah, depending on how your parents handle it. Have you ever thought, this is great, have you ever thought, yeah, I'd divorce this person too during a case? Abso-fucking-lutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. I actually take it a step further. I find myself constantly going, how did you ever marry this person? I look at these two people and I'll say, like, what happened? How did this seem like a good idea? You know, and I've often found myself, when I'm talking to clients, I have to have an extraordinary amount of restraint, because they'll be telling me the history of their marriage, and it's very, very hard for me. You know, they'll say like, well, you know, we were dating and he was like, had a really bad drinking problem and a terrible temper. And I think, and so you married him, you know? And they say, well, yeah, but I thought he would change, so I married him. I'm like, okay, it's not a great idea, but it makes sense. And then, you know, we had a baby, and I thought, you know, well, now that the baby's here, he'll change. And then he didn't change, and things actually got worse. And then I had another baby with him. And you sit there going, all right, wait a minute. Like, at some point, there was at least 9 months between each of these kids where you could have gone, you know, 2 kids didn't do it. Maybe a third probably will not be the thing that magically makes this person not into an asshole. So that's a little surprising to me. I look at clients all the time. I look at their spouses all the time. And I find myself thinking, how the fuck did these 2 people think this was ever going to work out? I often look at my client or the other side and I think, yeah, I would divorce this person too, but it's the version of them that I'm sitting across from at that moment. And I don't think that that's necessarily a reflection of who they are. If you judge me in my totality as a human being by my worst moment as a person, you're gonna have a bad view of me. If you judge me by my greatest moment, you're gonna have an overly optimistic view of me. What we all really know is we're just sort of an amalgam of the sum of our best, our worst, and everything in between. So, but yes, would I divorce this person too? That happens all the time to me. More often though, I go, how the fuck would anyone marry this person? The craziest terms you've seen in a prenup. Oh boy, I could do a day on this one. The craziest one I've ever seen, I've talked about before, and that is for every 10 pounds that the woman gained during the marriage, she forfeited $10,000 a month worth of alimony. That to me was the most shocking thing I've ever seen in a prenup. Not just because it's the most boorish clause I'd ever seen, but because she still fucking married this guy. Like that he presented that and she was like, yeah, okay, that seems fair. I mean, there was something honest about it. He was basically saying, look, you know, I want you to stay skinny and hot. That was his definition of what hot was that she was skinny. So there's something honest about it. And there was an incentive for her financially to do that. But the fact that it was an enforceable clause in a prenup is really shocking to me. But what other kinds of crazy things do people put? People put all kinds of stuff in prenups. I've seen people put in the number of times per week they have to have sex. I've seen people put in things about that a person's not allowed to grow a beard or a goatee. I actually had a woman put in a goatee clause. Her husband kept growing a goatee. It was very out of fashion, but he didn't realize it. So she wanted to put in the prenup that he's not allowed to have a goatee, and if he does, that there was like a financial penalty in the event of divorce.
And as a lawyer, if someone said, oh, they haven't fulfilled, the weekly sex quota of the prenup, how do you go about? Yeah,
it's almost totally unenforceable. And that's what's funny. Like people want to put things into prenuptial agreements because it makes them feel good, like infidelity clauses, where it says, if you cheat, you have to pay X, Y, and Z. Okay, how are we going to prove that someone cheated? Like, do you have to have video evidence of it? Because guess what, guys? Most people don't cheat and film it, And if they do film it, they usually keep it someplace where your spouse can't get hold of it, at least ideally. So ultimately, there's things that get put in these prenuptial agreements that it makes people feel good, but it's no real protection. As a lawyer, it doesn't matter what I know. It matters what I can prove. Is it more common for men or women to file for divorce? More women file for divorce than men. About 70% of divorces are filed by women rather than men. Now, that statistic has been weaponized in really unfair ways because it's been used to argue that women are treating marriage like a casino where they go in and then they win big and cash out their chips and run and take everything and leave the guy. That's actually not how it works, gang. It really is that women very often are in the position where they are the one who has to file for divorce. So, for example, if a man just goes out for milk and never comes back, and stops paying the mortgage and doesn't pay child support, and a woman comes to my office and says, he left, he took up with another woman, he's moved out, he's just gone, I don't know what to do. I say to them, well, we have to file a divorce action. And if they say, well, I didn't want to get divorced, he's the one who wants to get divorced. Okay, but we need to get temporary child support. We need to get him paying the mortgage so your house doesn't go into foreclosure. And the only way to do that is to file for divorce. So although more divorces are filed by women, that is not an indication of the fact that more women want to get divorced than men or want to be in a situation where they had to file for divorce. I will say, in my experience in 25 years, most of the divorces that are filed by women are filed because of things that men and women did. It's not like the woman just says like, yep, the stock is as high as it's gonna get and I wanna cash out. That's not how it works, gang. Is it any different with gay couples? You know, it's too soon to tell. Like, marriage equality has not been around long enough for the honeymoon period to be completely over yet. I've done a number of divorces for gay men. I've done a number of divorces for lesbian women. I will say to you unequivocally, lesbian women, it's a lot more brutal, those divorces in my experience. It's two women. It's very emotional sometimes. Sorry to stereotype, but sometimes stereotypes are a real time saver. Gay men are not adopting with the frequency that lesbian women are in terms of having children. So when people don't have children, they very often have a lot more assets because kids are really fucking expensive. So when you don't have kids, you very often have a lot more stuff, and then you have to argue over the division of the stuff. Is it any different with gay couples, lesbian couples? No, not in my experience. It's heartbreak. Heartbreak is roughly the same for everybody. And it's, you're seeing people at their worst, and they're dealing with, all the stages that you deal with grief: denial, bargaining, anger, acceptance, all those things. Do men or women cheat more? That is a great question. I would say in my experience, men cheat more, but women cheat better. Like, women go big or go home, Men just do dumb shit a lot of the times. And cheating is not all created the same, because there's a difference between a dalliance and an affair. A dalliance is like, yeah, I did something stupid and I ended up having sex with this person or fooling around with this person. An affair is like a full-on thing, And I think we can all agree those are different things. But men and women approach cheating differently in my experience. And they react to cheating differently in my experience. And I've said it before, although it's not a popular thing to say out loud. When a man finds out that his wife cheated, his first question is, did you fuck him? When a woman finds out her husband cheated, the first question is usually, do you love her? And that says a lot about what happens in these dynamics, because the question is, what does this mean to you? Does this person mean more to you than I do? Versus, has this person taken my property? Has this person touched my property? So it says something about our sort of internal biases about how we approach our spouse and approach marriage. But what I will tell you is men and women both cheat a lot. Men get caught more often in my experience than women do. Like, women, when they cheat, they're better about it in terms of how they hide it. Who are weddings really for? The common conception is that they're for the bride, but I don't actually believe that that's true. I think weddings are largely for the family, for the tribe, for the people around you. And I used to say all the time that I thought weddings were silly. But what I'll tell you is the following. My mother passed away about 9 years ago after a long battle with cancer. And I got married 20 or so years ago to my now longtime ex-wife. The best photos I have of my mom were from my wedding. It's when she was a little younger. She still had her hair because she hadn't lost it yet from cancer. And I look at those pictures all the time. And it makes me happy when I look at those pictures. And I remember when I got married, I was quite young, I was 24. And I remember saying to the DJ, don't play that stupid chicken dance, that thing. I was like, do not play the chicken dance. We're not doing that. And my mom, I guess, went to him and said, I want to hear the chicken dance. And I guess he figured out, yeah, I'm going to listen to her and not to the groom. And they played the stupid fucking chicken dance. And I have this memory of my mom doing the chicken dance. And I'm really glad I have that memory. So, who are weddings really for? I think they're for the people that are there. I think they're for you to build a memory that's going to be there for the rest of your life. If the first time everyone you love is in the same room as you, honoring you, is your funeral, you're a fucking idiot. So there are good reasons to have weddings. Get everybody together who's cheering for you and who loves you, and have some memories, take some pictures, have some drinks, eat some pigs in blankets, have a good time, because life is short and it invariably ends, and it's really, really nice to have some pictures.
Brought a tear to my eye.
Oh, mine too. It's a hard one to talk about. Why is love important? God, you should ask that one to like a psychologist. I don't know, I think love's the most important thing. I mean, love is what made us, we're born of it. We're born to it, ideally, right? Like we come out half formed and hope whoever meets us on the other side is gonna fill us in. Love is everything. Love is why we're here. And I don't just say that because I've done a lot of psilocybin, although it helps. Love is important. Love's the most important thing. I don't know why love's so important. I personally think that love is what we come from and love is what we go back to. I think God is love, but that's just my personal view of things. I think it's undeniable that love is the most important thing to most people. Feeling loved, wanting to love, and wanting to feel worthy of love. And those are three really different, but all really interrelated things. Even though I've been a divorce lawyer for 25 years, or maybe because I've been a divorce lawyer for 25 years, I think there's nothing more precious than love. There's nothing more valuable than love. And there's nothing more intoxicating and wonderful and terrifying and misleading and confusing than love. It's all of the things that make us human just all come into play when it comes to the game of love. So I don't know, it's the eternal game and it's the reason we're here, and I think it's the greatest thing. So that's the best answer I can give to that.
I did an embalming a couple nights ago. A person would not stop pooing. And so then I had to stick the hose up their bum, and their belly got all distended, and then you push on the belly to push the poo out. And it's just this nasty poop water, and nobody likes it. But it's for the greater good, because you don't want that poo to leak out at a different time.